Thank you. There are so many places to go with that. And I'm struck listening to both you and John. And John talking about the anti-Americanism of the last few years. And it almost sounded like he was describing broken hearts, given the way people look at America. And then I see the smile on your face when you're describing people's reaction to the election around the world. And I wonder if with this election, America has set expectations that can't be met.
Well, that's the cynical way of looking at it. That's the negative, yes. I'm sure there are expectations that not all of them will be met. But on the other hand, I've had so many emails of people saying, yay, we can love America again, it's great.
But what are they cheering for?
They're cheering for change, and they're cheering for a deceleration of the very anti-Americanism that's just been mentioned. Because that has been the great enemy over the last several years. And that, I think, most definitely will decrease. And I think that that's a major turning point.
But I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, clearly, America voted for change. The world cheered for change. But what specifically, when they are thinking change, is this change that can actually be delivered to the degree that they expect?
Well, it depends on what they expect. Look, I'm a foreigner. Like John, we came to America for all sorts of good and right reasons, because we believed in this country, we believed in what it offers. I am struck, and there are certain people in this room who've had to deal with this professionally, that, for instance, Guantanamo Bay is the most reviled symbol of America.
And simply closing that
would make a huge difference and would really change that situation. But look, the Statue of Liberty should be the single greatest symbol of America, and has been for so long and for so many years. So what do people want? Why are they disappointed? They're disappointed because they believe that this unique city, on the hill, lost its way. And they need an America to lead, and to lead in those particular ways, not just in hard power, but in cultural ways, in moral ways, in all the ways of freedom and morality that we as a civilization have come to expect. I mean, it may be a tall order, but that is what America stands for. And that's what people are cheering for, as well as the idea of breaking the mold and having
well, and that's where we are leading by the power of our example. We're showing something that people didn't think was possible has happened here. But then I wonder about, okay, and then when you get to policy, if President Obama intensifies the war in Afghanistan, slows down the withdrawal from Iraq, confronts Iran, what will be the world
Well,
reaction?
I can only tell you from what I've spoken to, for instance, I interviewed President Karzai the other day, and he was congratulating the American election, congratulating the people of America, and saying that he looked forward now to working with the next president. But when I asked him about more troops, he said, yes, of course, we want more troops, but we need troops around our borders. We need them to really be fighting where the insurgents are coming in and trying to stop that. He was very worried about the unfortunate incidents of civilian casualties that have happened with some of the air raids. But look, one of the things that certainly we've tried to report over the years, when the United States sent al-Qaeda and the Taliban packing in 2001 after 9/11, Afghanistan really embraced this. They really wanted that change. They really wanted to see that happen. Obviously, their first desire was for security for themselves, but they wanted a change, and they really embraced it. And I strongly believe that it was well on its way to marching towards a successful resolution. Maybe not liberal democracy as we see it here, but security, improvement in education, in health, in political resolution.
More opportunities for women.
More opportunities for women, which have been happening. And then, unfortunately, the eye gets taken off the ball. As we all know the story, people turn to Iraq. And this is a country that I think would serve the United States and the whole region so well if they finished the job. And the people there, I believe, want it. That's the crucial thing.
So if you could choose one place to be, or you tell CNN in 6 months, in May of 2009, this is where I want to be to see whether the promise is being met? Where would you go?
Well, I think there's several: Afghanistan, Iraq. I also think Iran is going to be very, very important because of what President-elect Obama has said, which is, again, a paradigm shift to engage some of these adversarial countries in a way that they haven't been engaged yet, without preconditions, and to engage in dialogue. 5 former secretaries of state of the United States have recommended that. European leaders, world leaders all over the place are recommending that. I know people, you know, may look askance at what the president of Iran does, but it nonetheless was unprecedented that he sent a letter of congratulations. And some might say that's the kiss of death. You don't really want that. But
that's the only way the president-elect looked when he got asked about it.
It is a political change. And others have said, for instance, today the foreign minister of France told me, look, America needs to deal with Afghanistan, Iraq, the Middle East peace process, Pakistan, all these areas. They need to have a better relationship with Iran on a basis of mutual interest, obviously, not to give away the shop and to really get the nuclear situation under control in a satisfactory way, but also to try to have a different relationship, because the relationship of the silent treatment hasn't worked.
Well, that's clearly the big question. And I want to open this up to other questions. Let me ask you one more. Do you believe, from your reporting there and your reporting around the region, that it is still an open question in Iran whether or not to have a nuclear capability, a nuclear weapon?
I think a nuclear capability they want. That means a nuclear program, which they've said openly, which is their right under the NPT and everything. But do they want a nuclear weapon? I'll tell you frankly, there was a real strong debate amongst Iranian officials who I spoke to during the time of Khatami. That was during the reform time. Should we, shouldn't we? What would it do to us? How could we cope? What would it mean for the balance of power in the region? I don't know whether they really want it. I can tell you that all the relevant officials, off record, on the record, say they don't want it. But I believe that they're on the way to the capability. It's here, the nuclear weapon. And once you have that,
no turning back.
No, but the question is, and then what? And so what do you do with that? People like Colin Powell have said, well, you have to police it properly, monitor it properly.
John Abizaid says learn to live with it.
Well, that's pretty much what Colin Powell said. Others, like the French, like even President-elect Obama, like the current administration, like the Europeans, say we cannot have that. We cannot live in a nuclear-armed Iran. But then the question is, so, and then what? What do you do about it? And I was struck, but really struck, by an interview that outgoing Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert gave to an Israeli newspaper, in which he also walked back the idea of some kind of easy military solution to this. And so I think that this is a major challenge that has to be addressed in a new diplomatic way.
Do you think the first and most important, or not necessarily, for Obama?
Well, look, I think it is. I mean, I think it's massively important, but no more so than 2 hot wars. You've got American forces committed in Iraq and in Afghanistan. I strongly believe that I believe that they're winnable. I believe that Afghanistan is winnable. I think Iraq is on its way to a much better situation. I think that these are really important. But I think that the idea of giving the silent treatment and sort of repeating the same kind of paradigm that's been for 30 years really between the United States and Iran hasn't borne any fruit. And by the way, on the encouraging front, what did bear fruit was the occasional times that they did negotiate. For instance, the Bush administration
in Iraq, too.
In Iraq, but even more substantially in Afghanistan after 9/11. The Bush administration negotiated with or the Iranians helped them negotiate the transition to power after the Taliban.